Hello, I'm John Jannarone, Editor-in-Chief of IPO Edge. Very happy to be here with Joe Hummel, who's the CEO of Twin Hospitality Group. This company is actually about to be spun out of Fat Brands, which trades on the ticker FAT on NASDAQ. Fat Brands also owns other restaurants, including Fatburger, of course, and Johnny Rockets. Joe, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So, Joe, if you could, oh, by the way, I should say I'm very familiar with this company because I wrote about it right after the Reg A IPO several years ago. Lots changed. Give us an overview of the Twin Peaks brand.
Sure.
Just set aside Fat Brands for a second.
So the brand started in 2005. Entrepreneur Randy DeWitt was our founder, restaurateur, entrepreneur, created the brand. Louisville, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. And so he put this brand together with a lot of different assets that make us a little different than every sports bar. We like to be known as the best kitchen in sports and the best bar in sports. And when we say the best kitchen in sports, we operate a scratch kitchen. Taking all the game day favorites and putting the trendy flavors and bold, craveable desires when it comes to food and scratch and quality. So that's one differentiator from a sports bar perspective. From a bar perspective, we have the 29 degree beer, which isn't marketing, it really happens. Running that beer through these technically designed draft systems that flows and it freezes the beer along the way, creating the beer crystals, so it's not a marketing play, it's actually the coldest beer in town. A big beverage program, 150 bottles, rarest pours, everyday pours, a lot of barrel selects from all the famous distillers. We have wall-to-wall TVs, 60, 80 different TVs, 12 satellites, every sports package you could imagine at the bar itself. We have the lodge. Who can't escape reality when they go to a lodge? I don't know. So we built the lodge, and it has all the authentic textures and tones and ambiances of any lodge. And then all those assets are brought to us by our Twin Peaks Grill. And they're the iconic ambassadors of the brand that make new guests our regulars that we have every day.
Great. Now, can you tell our viewers why it makes sense to separate these businesses? Are they going to be valued at different multiples? Are they different growth profiles?
Yeah, different growth profiles. So investors can look at both the business models and decide which area to go to. It allows us to focus on development. Have our management team strictly focused on the Twin Peaks development side and the Twin Peaks growth. So that's really the biggest time and reason to do that.
Great. Can you tell me a bit about the rest of the leadership team, your colleagues, and how they help you get to where you are?
Yeah, I mean, I started in the business as a franchisee in 2011 after 20 years at another brand. Myself and several partners spun off and became a franchisee of Twin Peaks. We started, I think we signed at 14 stores. We had a 43 store development agreement over 6 states. We built 15 stores and partnered with our founder in 2016, 2017, took over the brand and run it as the franchisor with him. Private equity bought us in 2019, and then we were purchased by Fat Brands in 21. But through all those processes, we've been a standalone executive team. So we have a full C-suite executive team, all the different departments, whether it's HR, training, legal, finance, analytics, marketing. The team itself, 14 members on the executive team. In restaurant industry, anywhere from 20 to 40 years in the restaurant business. So really great bandwidth of knowledge, and we've learned from a lot of different brands, whether it's the Brinker portfolio or the Landry's portfolio or Fogo de Chao. So we're able to bring a lot of practices we've all learned through our careers. But from a Twin Peaks experience also, then that group of executives, everybody carries anywhere from 10 to 14 years of Twin Peaks experience. So really a great bandwidth. And when Andy and the Fat team bought us, they left us in a standalone position. So we've to spin off, we're not unbolting things. We have our own contracts, we have our own purchasing setups, we have our own technology, our own accounting system. So it's going to be an easy, spin off.
Great. I want to ask you about something which I can actually relate to a lot. As a new father for the first time, I'm watching a lot more sports at home. There with my son. How much does a sports calendar affect your business? I mean, there's most weeks there's a lot of good stuff on, especially right now. But there also are slower periods.
Sure. I mean, as you see, the sports calendars over the years has stretched quite a bit, and it's becoming a heavy 12-month calendar. But you figure periods 10, 11, 12, all heavy football, college, NFL.
Yeah. And
then you roll into the new year of 1, 2, and 3, where you're finishing up football and going into March Madness, so it's crazy busy. Then you go into periods 4 through 6, you get NBA playoffs and NHL. So it really only leaves you about periods 7 and 8 when you look at that gap from 10 all the way over. So it's about periods 7 and 8 are a little slower, but even in today's world, you're seeing more international soccer, Champions League, Gold Cups, World Cups that usually have a tendency to play out in 7, 8, and 9 of the calendar. And then you layer in fantasy football drafts in period 8, rolls into period 9, and you're back to football again. So is there seasonality? Sure. There probably period 7 and 8 are probably the smallest sports watching periods, but the calendar continues to stretch out, and as you just saw with college football, they extended the playoffs. So once again, we're going college football would end January 6th this year. Last year, now it's all the way to January 20th. So we picked up 2 more weeks. We'll probably pick up another week. NFL is kind of the same way. You're seeing games on Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, Mondays. So it's really all the leagues are spreading out, not only for the week but throughout the year.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, what about economic uncertainty? I mean, I for one would be hard pressed to give up my trip to the sports bar to watch my favorite team, even if times are tough. How do your customers feel, or how do they respond when the economy slows?
Well, as we talked about the sports thing, all the different sports packages free to our consumer. So that's a value proposition in its own right. To pick up a Sunday ticket or NBA package or all the different conference packages, all those cost quite a bit of money. And we're throwing it on 60 to 80 TVs, which none of us have at home. Not yet. Maybe you do, but I don't. And then we're throwing them on 70-inch to 200-inch TVs. So you have all those things in there. And then you have our menu itself as a barbell strategy. We have enough on the lower end where you can walk in on a decent budget, get yourself a cheeseburger and a 22-ounce, 29-degree draft beer and really feel like you had an affordable, great experience. Or you can get a hand-cut New York strip steak and a Blanton's on a clear ice ball and really splurge on yourself and not feel like you dined down. So that barbell stretches everybody's budgets. If you're on a lighter budget, you can definitely dine. And there's a lot of daily specials that tie back to the bar. There's happy hours, there's 2 to 7, 10 to close specials. So we have a lot of different specials that are tied to alcohol, but that barbell menu really stretches everybody's budget quite a bit. And then you throw all the scratch kitchen, 29-degree beer, all the TVs, all the sports packages. We really feel that experience is our value proposition to offer that scratch food and that craft cocktails.
Makes sense. We've actually interviewed a number of companies in the sports betting world, and as I'm sure you know, many of your customers are able, in Florida, for instance, to bet legally on Hard Rock. You guys actually have a location in my town, West Palm Beach.
Uh-huh.
Is that would seem to be a boon for you, that you've got people coming in there to follow their bets?
Well, they are. They're following their bets for sure, and everybody's an active bettor because they have their own apps or whatever they're working off of. So it makes that sports enthusiasm even higher because they're betting on it.
Yeah.
And then the other, flip side of it is we have so many different games on, so many different TVs. They can really keep an eye on all their bets. They can watch their live games and the bets that are following them with the different packages we have. So you're seeing that pickup. When it comes to sports watchers, they're really in tune to their game. That's why fantasy drafts are so big in periods 8 and 9 because they're putting together their fantasy teams and they're watching Red Zone and kind of just it continues to parlay that way.
Now, we talked about your scratch kitchen. It sounds delicious. Tell us about how alcohol sales look. Are consumer preferences changing? Are you offering things like seltzers and stuff like that the kids like? Well, not kids, but young people.
I got you. So what we're finding is, obviously, we run about a 52% food, 48% bar. So we're still selling quite a bit of bar. But we've seen a shift, not so much, there is the non-alcoholic shift, and we have all the non-alcoholic beers and mocktails, but what we see more of a shift is in some lighter lagers, the Ultras and the Bud Lights and Corona Premiers. You're seeing a really uptick in those, less alcohol, lighter feeling. You're seeing a little less pull on the high alcohol content, like the local IPAs.
Yeah.
They're running 7-8% alcohol. So you see shift off that, seeing more into those lighter lagers, and then you'll see some mocktails, tons of seltzers and Topo Chicos of the world and all those different things. So yeah.
And are there promotions, special events that you do to drive sales around that as well?
Around the non-alcohol?
Or any beverage.
Sure, but actually we do non-alcohol. Now we're running a dry January one where our Twin Peaks girls get, whoever sells the most Heineken 0.0 goes to Coachella. So it's a big win. And then we do that same event in October. But there's always events tied, and we try to marry them up with alcohol vendors to help promote, whether it's game day specials, happy hour specials, certain days of the week specials. So we drive the business that way.
Great. Can you tell us how many locations you have in the pipeline and where you are right now for viewers that don't know?
Yeah, right now we have 115 lodges built as the end of the year. Through Q3 it was 114. So we have about 100 plus development commitments from our franchise base. Now that franchise base, it's about 75% of those franchisees are currently operating at Twin Peaks itself, and the other portion of them are new to the franchise system and going to start building their first one. So there's 100 plus development commitments for different territories. And then we'll build between 10 and 12 franchise units a year, and then another 3 to 4 corporate units. So we're keeping it between 13, 15 stores every year.
Great. One last thing here. Can we talk about the Smoky Bones acquisition and the conversion opportunity there?
Sure. Fat Brands bought Smoky Bones back in September of 23. Strictly, really, when they looked at it, was a real estate play of, is there 60 units here? We analyzed the 60 units and tried to figure out which ones we felt very comfortable with converting. And we look at converting about half of those, so there'd be about 30 conversions out there. And the nice thing about the conversion is, one, by owning Smoky Bones, we control the real estate because we control that lease. So part of development's slowdowns are always finding property. But we have 30 sitting there right now. So as that conversion tactic goes forward, we've just converted one in Lakeland, Florida. We're converting another one that's almost done in Tampa and Brandon, Florida. So we're able to take those conversions, hand those to our franchisees, and show them the template on how to convert. And generally, there's conversion runs you about between $2 and $5 million, whereas a new build buying dirt will run you $4 to $6 million on top of the purchase of the dirt. So there's considerable savings on the capital requirements. And then the turnaround time of conversion will run you in about 9 months. You can convert it, whereas on raw land that you're building a prototype will run you about 18 months. So you pick up some time there, and having those leases set and a lot of synergies from a second generation building really is attractive to whether it's a corporate development or a franchise development, because there's so many things in place that you kind of take for granted. But you have parking lots and rooftop units and bathrooms in their places, and the plumbing's all set. So a lot of things get moved out of the way from a development standpoint. So it's a really good real estate play for us, and we'll continue to convert the Smoky Bones over to Twin Peaks, and we'll go from there with them.
All right, Joe, well, this has been terrific. This has been Joe Hummel, who's the CEO of Twin Hospitality Group. Very soon, investors will be able to own this stock as its own standalone business. Right now, it's a part of Fat Brands, but very soon that spin's going to happen. Hope to hear more about that in the near future. I'm John Jannarone, signing off.